Russia has deployed around 150,000 troops in and around Ukraine in its efforts to topple the Zelensky government. On the flip side, Ukraine has around 1 million trained defense personnel sitting at home. And despite that, the government there is pleading with its citizens and foreign volunteers to lift the arms and fight the so-called Russian war criminals. Let me explain to you why. Hi and welcome. You are watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tejasvi Malhotra, and in this video I will tell you whether Ukrainian soldiers actually fight their Russian brothers or simply gave them a free passage. We are just 4 days into the fierce battle between the Russian and Ukrainian armed forces, and both sides are already claiming to have slaughtered thousands of their enemies. Kyiv says 5,300 Russian soldiers have been killed, along with 191 tanks destroyed and 29 fighter jets shot down. However, none of these numbers have been verified independently. Western media seems to blindly publish whatever strengthens their anti-Russia propaganda. While Russian news outlets face stiff preemptive censorship from the big tech and Western governments, information warfare disseminating from Ukraine is being taken at face value. One perception that has widely been established by anti-Russian media is that the Russian forces are under heavy pressure in Ukraine and President Vladimir Putin has already lost his senses due to the unexpected setback. But they conveniently hide the fact that Russia has not even deployed its lethal air force on the ground. Russia has declined to use the vast majority of its fixed-wing combat air force amid increased fears of civilian casualties and a mind-boggling amount of propaganda by Ukraine. The Russian government has made it more than clear that killing Ukrainian civilians and military men is not their objective. They only aspire to topple the West-backed government in Kyiv. Openly calling for toppling a democratically elected government indeed amounts to a violation of international rules and the UN Charter. But these moves appear to be backed by NATO's incessant attempts to expand its borders eastwards towards Russia. So Russia's war in Ukraine is against NATO and the US and not against the Ukrainian army and its people. And that brings us to the conclusion that it serves no purpose for the Ukrainian army to fight out the Russian troops. Before launching the invasion, Putin had asked the Ukrainian troops to lay down their arms. Some analysts even believe that Putin may be eyeing to install a military regime in Ukraine to stave off NATO's threat and ensure Russia's neighborhood remains peaceful.
Hey, it's me, Atul. I started this channel. We started small, we went big. Suddenly, the Whitey police was after us. We dodged and ducked, but the algos got us really bad. So we designed our own app. It's free. We never asked for money, we never will. But the droid called us too sensitive and blocked us. We still have an Apple app. Join us and fast, because if you don't, we will cease to exist. Check out the link in the description.
Putin on Friday had addressed the Ukrainian troops while telling them to take power in their own hands and agree a peace deal with Russia to stop the war. It seems that it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than with this gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis who occupied Kyiv and took the entire Ukrainian people hostage, Putin had said. There is no dearth of pro-Russian elements in Ukraine. From businessmen to politicians, from militias to media, public figures supporting Russia can be seen literally everywhere. Ukraine is not that anti-Russian country as the West seems to portray it. Ukraine's military forces total 215,000 active personnel, of which 125,000 make up the permanent army and 220,000 reservists. Make no mistake, the figure rises to almost 0.9 million, taking into account veterans and volunteer defense forces. Paramilitary security forces, the border guards and National Guard potentially add another 113,000 trained personnel to Ukraine's defensive capabilities. And despite that, the Ukrainian government is pleading with its citizens to lift arms and fight off the Russians. And not just its citizens, the Ukrainian president also appealed to foreign volunteers to take up arms in their hands and fight off Russian war criminals. Does Ukraine even have to ask for their help if it has to close to 1 million trained defense personnel already sitting at home? Absolutely not. When the Russian Air Force is not using its full power and deployment of the Russian army is very much scattered. Also consider the news of Ukrainian soldiers being taken as prisoners of war by their Russian counterparts on Snake Island. Previously, they were claimed to have been slaughtered by Russian forces, but now they have been proven alive. It's true that some of the Ukrainian soldiers who are influenced by radical anti-Russian elements in the government are battling with Russian forces fiercely like there is no tomorrow. But it is hardly believable that Ukraine's been able to exploit its full military might in chasing the Russians out of their home. Perhaps the hatred for Russian forces in Zelensky's heart is not shared by many of his troopers as is falsely believed by many in the West.